We've been talking a lot about the Giants, Dibs. I do want to get, though, to something that's happened around the NBA, because this was I don't know if funny is the right word. It frankly was kind of more of an embarrassment potentially for the league. But you remember what happened at the end of that Warriors-Kings game a couple of nights ago when the Kings decided to foul Seth Curry with like 3 minutes left in regulation?
Yep.
And they were up by a point, right?
Yep, up by a point.
And they fouled Seth Curry clearly intentionally far away from the ball. The ball was not even across half court yet. And they fouled Seth Curry, and they sent him to the free throw line. And everybody, including a bunch of people at this station, went crazy about how, this is tanking in action. How can you be so open about it, Sacramento? This is an embarrassment. What is the league going to do about it? And frankly, all of those reactions, I think, were pretty fair. If you listen to the Kings and to what Doug Christie said, they said, well, it was just a mistake in strategy.
Right.
Because we didn't realize we were over the limit. We wanted to commit a foul so that we could call a timeout, because we were about to lose a timeout anyway, because once you get under 3 minutes, the max timeouts you can have is 2, and they had more than 2 left. And you can't call a timeout if you don't have possession of the ball. So they said, let's commit a quick foul. They're not in the bonus yet. Let's commit the foul. We'll call timeout. We'll, get our next offensive play set up, whatever it's going to be, and then we'll go from there. The issue was they were over the limit. The Warriors were in the bonus. So they sent an 86% free throw shooter to the free throw line, and everyone freaked out that it was an example of tanking, and the Warriors ultimately win the game, yada, yada, yada.
And the other issue is that they did it again, and then they did it a third time. So,
those fouls weren't as egregious, though, in terms of, stopping the play, or it kind of felt like a little more in the flow of the game.
I guess,
if memory serves.
The one-off itself, you're in the lead, and you foul off the ball, and it is in and of itself kind of a joke. If you're going to do that, then you foul somebody, even if you don't know that you're already at 4 fouls and you're going to be over the limit, you foul somebody else other than a guy with the name of Curry. But
if you don't think he's going to go to the free throw line, it doesn't really matter, right?
But how do you not know with all the scoreboards? And I've been to Chase Center, and I don't know if you are sitting where Doug Christie was, if you can look up and see that gigantic scoreboard with team fouls.
Underneath the gigantic scoreboard, they have 4 smaller scoreboards that are tilted at an angle underneath on the inside, so everyone on the floor can see all of that.
Well, there you go. Yes. And all you have to do is be, watching the game as I was at home, and you saw a couple of possessions earlier. It was their 4th foul, so I'm not buying it, but go ahead, Grandy.
So the NBA announced yesterday that they were looking into that. They're looking into what Shams Charania said, quote, was a strategy mistake by Kings coach Doug Christie on an intentional foul of Seth Curry while leading the Warriors with over 3 minutes left in Tuesday's game. Okay, the result of this investigation by the NBA, Dibs, this was the NBA's statement, quote, the NBA has completed an investigation of the Sacramento Kings and head coach Doug Christie's decision to foul intentionally late in the team's game against the Golden State Warriors on April 7th. The league's investigation determined that Christie mistakenly believed that the Warriors were not in the penalty and therefore instructed his team to foul in an attempt to stop the clock and utilize one of the team's remaining timeouts. The investigation found that Christie made no intentional effort to give the Warriors a shooting foul or to cause the Kings to lose the game. End of the NBA statement. So the NBA says nothing nefarious here. The Kings just don't know what the hell is going on in games they're playing in.
Joke. It's a joke. And
which part?
The NBA's assessment of what they have deemed after their investigation, it's an absolute joke and it's an embarrassment. And I encourage everyone to go back and watch the Kings after that episode when, you had McDermott foul Seth Curry and he makes 1 of 2. Watch what the Kings did after that as far as not only offense but defense. Defensively, they were completely checked out. And look at the Pods three-pointer that gave him the lead that they never relinquished. Not only wide open, but he gets the ball, and a Kings defender looks over at him, and he's about, 8 to 10 feet away, and he looks over at Pods, and he realizes, I guess I should probably run over there. And there's a second, and then he stands there, and then he runs over, and Pods with the pump fake and the one dribble, and he hits the 3. And then you watch the possessions after that, there are at least 2 Kings, if not 3, with hands on hips, and they're just like standing there. They're just chilling. They're chilling like Cam is right now. I mean, Cam's working. He's our technical director. He's in for you right now, but currently there's nothing he has to do. There are no buttons to push. There's no calls to bring in. He's just kind of sitting there, and he's doing great. These Kings
That's part of that job.
Normally you're eating. I mean, Cam at least has enough class to not be eating.
He ate before the show.
Yeah, and you ate during the show yesterday, including the free piece of pizza that I didn't get, but that's neither here nor there.
You gotta be quicker, Dibs.
I have to be. Move quick, but don't be in a hurry.
Yes.
John Wooden. The Kings, after that non-intentional foul, they checked out. So NBA, you can investigate whatever you want. I'm with Draymond on this. Like, that was embarrassing.
To me, honestly, it doesn't really matter specifically if that was a tanking maneuver, the intentional foul, or it was the Kings coaching staff not knowing what the hell was going on. What I find really, really funny, and not in a good way, because this is all bad for the league. What I find really, really funny is there was obviously a gigantic public outcry about tanking as a result of what happened on Tuesday night at Chase Center. And it was all over Twitter. It was all over Instagram. It was all over these airwaves. It was all over a lot of airwaves across the country. It was everywhere. And you had various Sacramento media. You had Doug Christie himself. You had a number of people affiliated with the Kings denying all of this tanking talk. And hell, they might be right. They might be right. But what I find really, really funny, Dibs, is we have the NBA releasing this statement saying, no tanking here. This was just Doug Christie and the Kings coaching staff not knowing what's going on in the game that they're coaching. And I see all of Sacramento media, and there's a lot of great people in Sacramento. I have friends in Sacramento. This is not targeted at anybody individually.
Get him,
But I have all the Sacramento media who's sitting here celebrating the fact that the NBA says the Kings were not tanking. You know what that means, right? That means that your head coach and your 8 assistant coaches don't know what the hell is going on in your game.
Right.
How do you not know you're over the limit? And somehow that's better than the NBA fining you for tanking? Like, you're tanking by employing all these people that don't know what's going on. That's an embarrassment. What are you doing? How is this a good thing? No matter what happens, was it tanking? Was it not tanking? It's all an embarrassment.
And how badly do you need that third timeout to where if you've got 3 timeouts and you want to like commit a foul, that way you can commit a foul and use the timeout, you're leading in the game. And even if that was like the 3rd foul, do you really need the timeout that bad to where you want to commit a foul and then use that timeout up 1 with 3 minutes to go? That to me is kind of nonsense because you're winning the game. You're up by 1, and then you go down and he hits 1 of 2, and then I think Doug McDermott is the one who hit the 3.
Yeah.
And now you're up 3, and then you commit another foul, and so
Steph hit a 3 in there to tie it too, but yeah.
And then it winds up to be a tie game, and you don't score, and then you come down, and you foul again, and you're making sure that. And if you want to look at the foul that was committed, I think is it Caldwell for Sacramento?
Cardwell.
Thank you, Cardwell. So go back and watch that foul. So it's a tie game, and the Kings go down, and they don't score, and the shot goes up, and Cardwell basically goes up to Seth Curry, and he throws him to the ground. Like, he's about 17 feet from the basket. He's not really trying to get in there and rebound the ball, and he commits such a heinous foul, I thought it might have been a flagrant because he basically took Seth with one arm and he throws him to the ground, and you're telling me that that is not an intentional foul? Of course it was. So NBA, you can say whatever you want. And Doug Christie, well, I was confused. It's all nonsense. You wanted to lose. You want to be in that bottom 4 if possible. And here you are tied with Utah, and you're a half a game back of Brooklyn for the 3rd worst record. And I can't wait until the next time the Warriors play Sacramento because the Kings, Doug Christie might play. It might be Doug Christie and Vlade and Stojakovic, not the kid from Illinois, but Peja himself. They all might suit up.
Yeah, that's tomorrow when the Warriors play the Kings next. Tomorrow in Sacramento.
And I'm going to go ahead and say this for all of the people in Sacramento and my dear friends who work there, and you and I have worked with so many of them, but you can go ahead and take that bulb out of the beam. They're not lighting the beam. They don't want to light the beam. I would guarantee the beam has already been put away into storage for the year.
What's funny, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. It is kind of funny. The Kings have actually won more games than the Warriors since the All-Star break. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. It's kind of not great, but
it's not.
It is true. The Kings have won more games than the Warriors since the All-Star break, but it doesn't make what happened on Tuesday night at Chase Center any easier to understand. The Kings might honestly be right, and this wasn't outright tanking, and this wasn't specifically that foul, but it's still not a good look at all. And whether the Kings are tanking or not, there's 8, 9, 10 other teams that are tanking. This is a gigantic issue with the league, and I'm scared, Dibs, frankly, that what Adam Silver and the rest of the NBA are going to do, they're going to make this issue even worse with some of these proposed fixes to tanking. I don't think they have any idea how to combat what's going on.
It's tough because not every team that's in the bottom 10 is tanking. There's some teams that are just bad. And like Brooklyn, for example, I don't think they're tanking. They're just bad. But then you look at Washington, where you acquire, Trae Young, and he plays for about a week or a week and a half. And then, you go ahead and you rest. And Anthony Davis, go ahead and rest and, be ready for next year. And Utah, what they've done. And, Dallas, where they're trading everybody they have. And so every team in that spot is a little bit different. They're not all tanking. Some are just terrible. But the bigger issue is being bad is actually good. It can be good. If you're bad, you can get rewarded. And New Orleans did when they got the number 1 pick and they got Zion. And unfortunately, he's not worked out to be the player that they wanted. And, Mark Spears joined us yesterday and talked about Atlanta. Yeah. And they won the lottery and they got Zachary Richardson. And he's not Wemby.
He was, I think, a healthy DNP CD the other day.
Right, and he might eventually be a good player, but
they're not tanking. They're trying to win games now.
Right,
the Hawks are.
Every year the lottery is kind of a different animal. Like Markelle Fultz was number 1 overall. The Clippers famously got Michael Olowokandi number 1 overall. The Warriors got Joe Smith. So it doesn't always work out where you win the lottery, you get a generational player, and you become good. So I get that part of it, but the whole idea of not wanting to be like the 10 seed, that to me is the bigger issue, and it all comes down to the play-in tournament.
Yeah, 888-957-9570 if you want to weigh in. We're going to go out to you, Joe, in just a second. First, though, you're listening to 95.7 The Game, KGMZ FM and HD1 San Francisco, an Odyssey sports station, and the home of the Golden State Warriors and Valkyries. Always live on the free Odyssey app, coming to you live from the Laughing Monk Studios. I want to say more about that in a second, Dibs, but Joe's been hanging on patiently. So let's get to Joe in Burbank who wants to weigh in. What's up, Joe? You're on Willard and Dibs. It's Dibs and Grandy today. What do you got?
Hi, guys. Hey, listen, great show as always. Thanks for taking my call. I got a question for you. Everyone, hopefully you'll give me an extra 30 seconds today. A lot of times when I call in, I get chopped off, But anyway, everyone is excited to see if Steph can beat Portland and LA Clippers basically in the play-in to get to the playoffs. And I think you guys had a poll that said, and this is just approximately 56% with people said they don't think so. They said no, and about 34% said yes. That's just ballpark. I might be off a couple of points, but I had a question for you guys. Honestly, I don't want to put you in the spot, but from a best for the franchise standpoint, right now the Warriors are frozen into the 11th pick. So even if they don't move up, they're going to get the 11th pick, and that should be a damn good player at 11. I don't know about 15, 16. But on your poll, personally, I think that's I don't agree with that. I think it should be like 66% yes and 30-some-odd% no, because I have a lot of faith in Steph, and some of these players are going to be healthy, and I think they can pull it off. But the thing is, when Steph shoots them out of the play-in into the playoffs, we're out of the lottery. So I don't know, we'll drop from 11 to I don't know what it is. But and I'm not trying to put you in the spot, but really what's best for the franchise is when they're talking about adding, whether it's still Giannis, and I hope that's a dead thing, or different players, Kyrie or Leonard. If you have the 11th pick, you might end up with a player that is damn good that can play with Steph next year. Maybe he might have to start out a little slow. But I would rather have a high-quality player play with Steph next year in his last few years than try to sign Leonard or Giannis. What do you guys really think from I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but
yeah, Joe, I got you, Joe, and I appreciate the call and the question. You're referencing the poll that we ran on this show a couple of days ago. It's our Engaging Dub Nation Twitter poll brought to you by Shane Co. And it was, with Steph back, do you think the Warriors will make it out of the play-in tournament? And because they're going to be the 10 seed, that means having to win 2 road play-in games in do-or-die environments. And that poll ran 61% no, they will not make it out, and 39% yes, they will make it out. And that seems pretty close to fair to me, to be honest with you. If you're asking what's best for the organization going forward, I think I frankly don't think there's an argument against getting as high of a draft pick as you possibly can. But if you're arguing for what's best from a fandom perspective, what's best for Steph, getting to see as many opportunities of Steph in the playoffs as possible, then it's trying to make it out of that play-in tournament. But there is no doubt that the potential upside of being in the lottery is a potentially gigantic upside in doing that.
It could be, and if you look at the odds, and if they wind up where they are, which is 11, they have a roughly 10% chance of being in the top 4. 2% that they get number 1, and it is a little bit less than 10% that they get top 4. It's a 78% chance they stay at 11. It's a 13% chance they fall to 12, and then 13 and 14 is almost infinitesimal.
Yeah.
Now, if they make it out of the play-in into the playoffs, they're going to pick number 15 because the other teams that are there all have a better record than the Warriors do. So if they make the playoffs, they're going to be 15. If they don't, they're most likely going to be 11 or 12, a long shot chance of 1 through 4. So if they're 11 or 12 versus 15, that's almost indistinguishable, I think, in this draft. And, you know, you might get somebody at 15 that you would have loved at 11 who falls to 15. And the guy who I really want them to take is Jaxel Lundenborg, and many mock drafts have him going 17, 18, 19. He's a guy who is a big, strong, muscular wing who is, I believe, 23 years old or 22 years old. And
might be even 24. He's an older guy.
He's an old, grown man. And so if you're looking for the Warriors to maximize the Steph Curry window, you're not looking for them to get the number 1 pick and take DeBonsa for next year. I mean, he might be the long-term guy that you would want in 3 or 4 years. But for next year, I think about a guy who is already in his 20s, somebody who is a grown man, somebody who can help right away.
Well, even if you don't make a pick in the top 4, you have that pick. Like, it gives you a ton of options to do other stuff potentially. I mean, like what's best for Steph, but also what's best for Steph next year versus what's best for the organization might at some point, maybe it's already diverged, but those might not be the same things anymore either.
True.
Like you could make a case that the best thing for the organization would be somehow winning the lottery or getting a top 4 pick and picking maybe who you think the guy who will eventually be the best player. Maybe that's not Cam Boozer, because Cam Boozer is probably the most ready to help in the NBA now and from those top guys.
Maybe, yeah.
But AJ DeBonsa, Caleb Wilson, Darius Acuff, Darren Peterson, maybe some of those guys are going to be twice the player that Cam Boozer becomes 5 years from now. Maybe that's what you think is best for the organization going forward.
Arizona's got the 3 freshmen, I think all of whom are going to be NBA players and good players. And so it just depends on what you think about for next year. And right now, I was just looking at FanDuel, and the Warriors are minus 420 to miss the playoffs, which means they have a 19% chance of making the playoffs, and they have a 10% chance of being a top 4 pick in the lottery.
And our poll ran at 39% chance to make the playoffs. So our poll, which is full of Warrior fans, obviously are running at a higher rate than what the independent bookmakers set it at.
Yes, and as they should. Yes. And if you look at, the road, and if you look at the history of it, and I mentioned this yesterday to Willard, and, he and I got into a little bit of a heated argument over this, but of the 10 times you've had a 10 seed in the play-in, only one has ever made it into the playoffs, and that one team got swept. And so, you could go ahead and get in the playoffs, and I don't know if you'd get swept by OKC, who is now officially the number 1 seed.
They clinched that last night.
I mean, you might lose in 5 or 6, and I don't think it goes 7. I don't even think that you actually win the series, and there's value in getting into a series. I'm not going to deny that. But for me, the value of having a chance at maybe getting lucky in the lottery like Dallas did, like Atlanta did the year before, that to me is a better shot than, going against OKC, getting out of the play-in, and then going against OKC and, actually winning.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like, Willard has kind of, I don't know if targeted is the right word, but come at me a little bit for saying that I think it would be better for them to miss the playoffs and be in the lottery. And I'm not talking about the 10% chance of being a top 4 pick. I'm just talking about maybe even being the 11th pick, because I know that this is a pretty deep draft and you could get a quality player, maybe 15-ish. I think there's still a pretty big difference between being the 11 or being the 15. So I would want the 11 seed by a mile over the 15. It's hard for me, though, like when the play-in comes around and next Wednesday when the Warriors are in Portland, in all likelihood, that's the most likely situation, although a really big Portland Clippers game coming up tomorrow on Friday that might determine where the Warriors go to begin the play-in. It will be hard for me when that game comes around, kind of like Draymond talking about I don't get excited for it, at least not right now, but when the game comes, I'm going to be going for it 100%. That's kind of my mindset. Like, I'm not terribly eager for the Warriors to make their way out of the play-in, but once the play-in game comes, I'm not going to sit down and root for them to lose. That's just not the way my brain works, but it might ultimately be the best thing, despite what it might mean for Steph and meaningful basketball, despite what it might mean for Steve Kerr and him talking about this is not for me, trying to lose and tank or whatever that is. That's not what this is. I think it's just looking at it rationally, trying to take fandom out of it and saying, well, them losing and missing the playoffs might not be the worst thing. In fact, it might be the best thing for them.
And it might be, and if you look at like the possible scenarios where, okay, if they don't make the playoffs and the lottery is May 10th and you happen to land in the top 4, well, then you've got about, 2 months almost until the new league year, and you're sitting at maybe number 4. The Warriors move all the way up to number 4. Now you've got a pick is actually...
We got action.
We got action. And like that pick becomes a tangible, movable thing where, the Warriors land at number 4 and you can shop that and perhaps a contract of some sort and go out there and get a player, or you can use that pick and another pick and get a player, or you wind up and you stay at 11. Okay, you're at 11 and you still might get a good player, or you make the playoffs and you land at 15. Either scenario, I think, is going to help you.
Yeah,